Well, hello, and welcome to the AzureWell podcast. I'm here today with John King. John King is a singer-songwriter, and right now you're in Nashville. But I understand you've been doing a tour across the West, and so I understand also that you have a health journey. Um, Not many people don't have a health journey, but some of us that kind of go through things that are a little bigger, we start calling it our health journey. And so we'd love to hear, what you've experienced and what brought you here and how you got to know Azure well. So tell us a little bit about where you're at right now and where we're going with it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Susan. I'm a huge fan of the brand. Obviously, love the products, love the people. I got connected with Pete midway or so through last year, and just fell in love with the brand and what you guys stand for. And also a big fan of Rory Feek, who is another Nashville guy down here, country music guy. And when I saw some of his posts and what you guys were doing, I thought, man, this is exactly the kind of product I want to promote and get behind, both on the AzureWell and the Azure Standard side. So yeah, it's been a really cool journey to meeting you guys. But long before that, country music artist. I grew up in Northeast Georgia. Grew up loving songwriting, performing. Just started out playing in church and little small venues around the Northeast Georgia area, and yeah, just fell in love with music. And I graduated, went to University of Georgia, got a music degree there, and a marketing degree, and decided as soon as I graduated, I had to go to Nashville. Just that was the spot to be. It's the spot for country music, and it's a really good town. It's just got a good community feel to it, and I knew that was the place I needed to be to get better and to kind of be the best version of me. So yeah, really just hit the pavement running as soon as I got out of college. I came here, was playing every little bar and honky tonk I could, trying to get my name out there. And when I got to Nashville, I realized that the competition, the level of talent was unreal. Like I was overwhelmed by how many amazing artists there were here, and so I knew I had to get better. So I started writing 200 or 300 songs a year. I'd write 3 songs a day, and we'd get in these rooms, in Nashville, we collaborate. So we co-write songs. You have 2 or 3 songwriters in a room with you. And that was helpful to kind of have people to piggyback ideas off of. And slowly but surely, we started getting some better and better songs. Finally signed a publishing deal back in let's see, what that would have been, probably 2014 or so. And then a couple years later, my first record deal. And so yeah, we were off to the races. Went from only flying twice in my life to being, a gold platinum member on Delta and Southwest and United, all within 1 year. So it was a wild rat race of, radio tour and shows and, promo, PR, press events, TV performances. It was really crazy. And then we had our first top 40 song with a song called Tonight. So it was really cool to kind of see my dreams unfold. But while that was all happening, I was really burning the candle at both ends. I mean, not sleeping, pulling all-nighters, driving through the night, getting to shows. We were driving ourselves. We weren't in a tour bus. We were in a Suburban, with a trailer. So really kind of paying our dues, as they say in the industry. But really, just not taking care of our bodies, not eating right, going to drive-throughs and yeah, it was stress, a ton of stress. So I didn't know all that at the time. I just kept pushing through it and thought this is normal. And this is the life that we're taught to live, to get to that dream. So a few years later, writing songs, I got to put out my first full-length album. And then, put the album out, we toured. And then about a year later, COVID came. So when COVID hit, just like everybody, it kind of gave me the first moment in years, since I'd been 16, 17 years old, to kind of reflect and be like, what am I doing? Like, is this really good for me? Is this what I really want to do? Is this still something I'm passionate about? And what I realized is when I was at home, when I was getting like normal sleep and eating better food, preparing my own meals, eating organic food, I felt so much better. And it was just kind of a wake up call for me that maybe what I'm doing is not the best thing for my body, both mentally, my mental health and my physical health. And I noticed I felt like a better husband. I felt like a better father. I was just more aware, more in the moment. And I always kind of been a workaholic, and it gave me time to let all that sink in. So that's when it really kind of hit me that I need a lifestyle change, not only for me, but for my family. And we need to start putting nutrition first, putting mental wellness first, putting stress, getting rid of stress. And, I never meditated ever. I tried to meditate the first time and I couldn't sit alone with my thoughts. I just couldn't do it. And that told me that there's a little bit of a problem here, you need to be able to just decompress and take a deep breath. So, it was a big 180. And then I had a big, health scare of my own that really kind of was it all culminated. And this is kind of what my body's been telling me. And now I have no choice but to address it. But through that journey, it introduced me to great brands like Azure. It introduced me to eating organic food and taking supplements and meditating and getting good exercise and sunlight and all these things that seem so simple, looking at, the ingredients list in the back of your cleaning products and things I would have never even thought of, 5 years ago. And over the past year, it's been a big journey to kind of find this balance between wellness and being still doing the career that I do and that I love to do. And I found that there is a balance to that. So it's something I'm learning every day, but I'm really excited that my eyes were kind of open to that.
Well, and from what I gather, for the influence that you have, you are a real role model for young people, young men particularly, that might be in the same situation that you're in, where it's kind of burning the candle at both ends and figuring that maybe this is normal when it's actually not, and it's detrimental. So it kind of makes me wonder, you have a new video out called Better Man, and with your song. And I wonder, did some of your journey play a part in the lyrics for that song and the sentiment that you have there? Because it feels like that song is really describing, kind of you wanting to turn over a new leaf and do better and become that better person that can actually help other people.
Definitely. Yeah. That song in particular, Better Man, is one, it's kind of a love letter, to my family, saying that I want to improve for my family's sake. And I think we forget that sometimes. For me, I thought I was out there providing for my family, and, the harder I work, the more I can do for my family. And that's my job as a father. And it is, to some degree, as the provider, but, if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else, and that's something I realized and I sort of neglected. If you're shouldering all these burdens, if you're in chronic stress and you're not eating properly and taking care of your body, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody. And it seems like such a simple thought, but it's something I'd kind of forgotten, in the rat race, that song definitely points to the fact that in order to have a healthy family life, to be a good father, to be a good husband, you have to take care of yourself first, and foremost.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to share that song now with everybody, because your fans love you, they know you, but there's a lot of people out there that haven't heard your music, and this seems like a really good song for them to be introduced to what you sound like and kind of what your message is.
I would love that. Yes, definitely.
All right.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to another campfire session. I'm so excited to be at the beautiful Sweetgrass Ranch here in Big Timber, Montana. This is one of our favorite places in the entire world. I've got my family out here with me. Me and my girls, we've been riding horses, we've been hanging out by the river, hanging out with the cool dogs on the ranch, and we're surrounded by the most beautiful Montana mountains. We love the family at this ranch. We've become close friends with all of them. This is a place we love to come, just recharge every year. I've got my girls with me on the road this summer, and my absolute favorite job in the world is being a dad. So I wanted to play a song that I wrote about them. It's called Better Man. It's one of my favorites that I put out on my last record. We don't have a campfire this time because it's hot out here, but here it is, by the creek, here at Sweetgrass Ranch, Campfire Sessions.
Make me want to give you this world, even though I know I can't. Make me want to slow down time, rub them stars like I'm bigger than I am. Make me wanna be a better man. Yeah. I don't mind that I had to trade my truck for a minivan. That is Barbie dolls and bottles of milk instead of ball games and beer cans. It's Daddy, I missed you. When that smile hits you, that's when you understand the reason things don't turn out like you planned. You make me wanna hit my knees and thank God every chance. You make me wanna give you this world even though I know I can't. Make me wanna slow down time, rub them stars like I'm bigger than I am. You make me wanna be a better man. I still cuss, drink too much, get loud every now and then. I sit in a pew more than I used to, but Lord knows I still sin. Somewhere in between who I wanna be and who I am right now. All I know is with you I'm a little less lost, more found. You make me wanna hit my knees, thank God every chance. You make me wanna give you this world even though I know I can't. Yeah. Make me wanna slow down time, broke them stars like I'm bigger than I am. You make me wanna be a better man. Yeah. Make me wanna be a better man. Yeah. Today I stop like I do a lot just to take it in. And all I thought is this life I got don't get no better, man. You make me wanna hit my knees and thank God every chance. You make me wanna give you this world even though I know I can't. Yeah. You make me wanna slow down time, broke them stars like I'm bigger than I am. You make me wanna be a better man. Yeah. You make me wanna be a better man.
Well, John, that's a good song, and it's inspirational. And
Thank
I
you so
think
much.
that that's kind of what we're all wanting to be. And when you get to that spot where you just want to be better than you were for the people that you're around. And I know that my own story, yes, I had that stressful period where things were really bad, but I've done a lot of study before before I got my cancer. And I wasn't really afraid of cancer because I had read enough about it to say, hey, this thing's beatable, it's preventable, it's beatable. So I was really surprised when I got cancer because I had been eating organically and all this. And so that kind of, because I got a really fast growing cancer, I had neuroendocrine carcinoma. I had a tumor in my abdomen that was 23 centimeters at its largest. So I looked 7 months pregnant. And this came on in a matter of months. And yeah, it surprised me because I thought that I was doing everything right. But praise the Lord, I was able to get some help. You might call it emergency help because yeah, it was, I was probably closer to dying than I even knew at the time. Now looking back on it and seeing the details, it was a close call, really. But the beauty of it, and this is where bringing in the AzureWell line, this came about because of all of that difficulty that I went through. and coming out after being, getting good treatment for cancer. And there was a health scare, you might want to call it, when I saw some of my marker numbers going back up.
Wow.
And I'm like, uh-oh. I had seen enough other people have gone through cancer treatment and die, within 6 months to a year after their treatment, that it really scared me when my numbers started going back up. And that's when it was just the Lord's blessing that I talked to the right people and was put in touch with the right people, so that I got to know a chiropractor acupuncturist with a emphasis on nutrition. And he ran his tests, did his thing, asked me the questions, and sent me a whole pile of supplements. And it was amazing. I felt better within the first couple of days. After the first couple of weeks, those marker numbers went down. And I was like, we're onto something. These supplements, they're different. They're, the ones that you can only get at a practitioner's and things like that. And David Stelzer, our CEO here at Azure, he saw the journey I was going through and kind of saw what I was spending on supplements and what needed to happen. And we kind of put our heads together and said, we need to be able to bring these kind of supplements to the Azure family so that everybody can have access to these. And so that's kind of how that got started. But you're right, there's this journey ahead of time. And although it was a surprise to me, I've read since then that cancer doesn't really start unless you have like 3 things that stack up one on each other. The body is made to squash anything like that. And so I guess part of my mission with all of this is to be able to help people wherever they are in their health journey.
Yeah.
Maybe they just have that little inkling that, well, something's just not right. And it sounds like you kind of had that understanding early on, like, oh, when I get my sleep, I feel better,
Yeah, it seems like such a simple thing, but it's just all about being in tune, with your body. I just wasn't listening. I was too busy to listen. And there were signs of, I would get this tightness in my chest, when I would get stressed, and I would think, that's just, this is normal. That's not really normal. That really shouldn't happen. You should be able to let stress come, and everybody's gonna have stress, but to be able to get rid of it and be able to breathe through it and move through it. And I just couldn't, like, I would get stuck in a loop, on something that wasn't even that big of a deal. And so, that chronic stress, and once you have that, it affects everything. It affects how you eat, how you sleep, how you feel. And my wife one day was like, she looked at me and she just thought, you look tired. And she never says that. And I'm a high energy, high strung person. And I was like, yeah, I really do feel tired. And I just remember that first year of COVID, we weren't doing any shows. So, it was really kind of like the first time I could stop and listen to what my body was trying to tell me. And when I did, I realized, like, man, I've got some work to do here, and coming from, I wouldn't say my lifestyle before was really considered bad. I worked out regularly. I actually probably worked out too much sometimes, just because that's my personality, just sort of OCD, an overdoer, overachiever. And, I would do these high intensity workouts and think, like, this is what I need. And kind of just, all that cortisol, all that stress, like, it would just ramp up even more. But then I wouldn't do anything to calm down. I wouldn't do any meditation or any breathing or anything to kind of get leveled out. So I was just like in fight or flight all the time. And so, I was doing certain things. I wasn't eating organic. I'd never been really, from a tiny town in Northeast Georgia. We didn't have organic food, like, unless it was grown in a garden, like at our grandma's house or something. I didn't know what organic food was. We had, one tiny grocery store. And so, when we came to Nashville, we did have, finally some options. So when we did have time to slow down and research food, we're like, okay, this makes total sense why someone would eat organic food, and we had access to it. So when we did, we realized, oh, not only you feel better, it tastes so much better. and then we got hooked up with some local farmers who had, real gardens, and then we got, into like our local, like ag program that delivers, a box of food, from the local farmers market. And it's like, man, why weren't we doing this, 10 years ago? This is so much better. And yeah, it's a little more expensive, but it's like, this is your health, what better investment? So yeah, I mean, it's really changed our whole view of everything. And I think, to me, like, the common theme is just being intuitive and listening to your body and taking the time, because I really do think if you listen hard enough, you can really figure out what your body's trying to tell you. And it might take some investigation and some research, but just like you said, I mean, you can get online and research supplements, and 10,000 supplement. If you want a vitamin B supplement, you can get 10,000 options. But even in that rabbit hole, you have to go find one that's quality, and that can be hard to do. So that's where it's great to have a company like Azure. When you look on that ingredient list in the back and you don't see 10, really odd, different, things that you can't pronounce, it's like, this is natural. It's from food. It's organic. And that's a really tough thing to find even in today's world. So it's great that exists out there. And I think it's easier now than ever for someone who wants to find something and to find it from a trusted source, like Azure.
Well, and a lot of it kind of, you explained it with the talk about music industry. You got to go, and this is just the way this is. And to a certain degree, that's kind of the way it's worked out with the supplement industry as well, because they want to get all these pills out, and they've got to get them on these machines that go fast, because we just need to make this for the mass market. And what we're finding is that a lot of the excipients, the fillers, the things like that they actually put in the pill for you to swallow are only there to make their machine run faster when they're filling that capsule.
Right.
And they're not good for you. And so, the whole thing of kind of slowing everything down and saying, hey, we're going to do this right. We're going to take that time. And that's where it was kind of neat when I saw your video where you're actually out RVing. It sounds like you're taking an RV rather than taking those plane rides everywhere.
Yeah, and that's been a huge transition to me, because I had to really kind of evaluate things, after COVID, and honestly, something I haven't talked about much before, but I really considered, like, is this the right career for me anymore? Like, is this healthy for me? Am I going to be able to make this a healthy lifestyle? Because I think a lot of people associate, music, touring artists, with late nights and, alcohol and drugs, and, it's not that crazy, but I mean, it was a lot of stress, a lot of low sleep, a ton of travel. Despite the fact I was working out, I was drinking a lot of water. I was, thought I was really taking care of myself, but when I really started digging in, I realized, okay, how am I going to make this a healthy environment for not only me, but my family? Because I love to take my family on the road. That's great for my mental health. I notice, when I go out without them, I feel like I'm missing out, on my favorite job, which is being a dad. So that was a big priority. Like, how do I incorporate that in? So what we started doing is, we came up with this idea for a series called Campfire Sessions, which that version of Better Man you just played as part of that series, where we would go around. We got an RV sponsor, we got a truck sponsor, and kind of had, instead of a tour bus, like, we would take this truck and trailer out and we'd camp. We'd play shows, and usually we roll into a city, we play a show, and we stay in a hotel, and then we're out of there, next place. So I was like, how do we build in a little more cushion to where we can actually enjoy some of these places, to step back, take a breath, enjoy? I mean, it really is a blessing to get to travel the country and see all these places that people would love to see. Like, I realized, like, I'm really blessed to get to do that. Like, why not take advantage of that and get to share it with my family? I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. So it's like, if I were 6 years old and got to go to Montana and California and all this, like, I would have gone nuts, and we decided, okay, let's homeschool our daughter. Let's go take the camper and let's make this a family experience. Let's take more time. Let's take less shows if we need to, and take the shows we want to take. And let's build in some cushion, some travel to where we're not having to, like, be in an insane rush all the time. Because that's not healthy for anybody. and let's make this a series and let's share it with fans and show them where we're staying and what we're doing. And it just started as just an idea for maybe, a month or two kind of partnership. And then we're in our 5th year. So it's really become kind of a favorite thing that, I hear from my fans all the time. Like that's how they either discover me, or it's one of their favorite things about what we do. Cause it is a little unique, from I think what some other people do. And I've always loved the outdoors. I grew up camping. My dad was a huge outdoorsman, and we grew up, tent camping. And then my dad went up to the pop-up camper when I was about 10 years old, and we thought we were rich, that we'd hit pay dirt. And then when I got to college, he finally got like a motor home. And so I was familiar with all the stages and types of camping, anything from like primitive backpacking in the woods to luxury glamping, as they call it. So yeah, we found a really good travel trailer that kind of fit our needs. And my girls they just took to it. Like they just absolutely love traveling. They love staying, and they got to go to all the shows with me. It was the first time that I'd really gotten to have my family with me on the road. And I realized not only is this doable, but this is like necessary. Like I should be doing this every show. Like why have I, been flying around and like not, taking in the sights and enjoying it. So it's been a whole different thought process, but it's been a world. It's really renewed my passion for what I do.
Mm-hmm. And by going in an RV, it gives you the opportunity to cook your own food.
Yes.
And so getting your organic food from Azure and cooking it the way you want to cook it, not, just however you get it at a, fast food joint. But then, and I don't know if you've done this yet, but I know that some full-time RVers that are kind of going around the country, they will get their Azure order at different drops around the country. And I don't know if you've done that yet. But
my first pickup, actually, I got an Azure order sent I was playing a show in Colorado, and I found a drop along the way. And yes, that was my very first pickup, was in Colorado. Shout out to Pete for arranging that, because I know it was probably a nightmare to arrange that. But we were, on our tour out west. This was last year, and yeah, he made it work, and we got to pick up everything. And that is such a luxury to be able to do that, because there's drops in places around the country that there are no grocery stores. There's nothing around there. So like to be able to get organic food, healthy food to those drops is amazing. And so, yeah, and you hit it on the head when you said, Susan, like that's one of the biggest advantages to traveling with an RV, or, sometimes we have like a Sprinter van we'll take out. It's got a fridge. Like if you can have your own fridge and your own way to prep and cook your food, that is an absolute game changer. And it really, eliminates that, like, when it's, dinner time and you pass the McDonald's or whatever, you pass a, fast food joint, it's like, it's so much easier. But when you've got your food prepped in the fridge, it's like, okay, we're already good. We got our food. So that's been a game changer for sure.
And it helps it so that you can keep on your health regimen, because I know that just traveling and, okay, airlines, you can't take certain liquids on there. You can't do this, can't do that. And then of course, how are you going to stay on your regimen when you're, living out of a hotel and stuff like that? So
yeah, I think, flying is just tough, especially with the amount of gear that we travel with, as touring artists. Having the ability, and I've always loved the road. I've always enjoyed seeing the sights. You meet so many fun, interesting people along the way. And, when we stop, we kind of have our little routes. Now if we're going out west, we have our route and our favorite little campgrounds we'll stop at, and our favorite, pickups and drops, and we can kind of organize things that way. So it takes a little more planning and it takes a little more preparation, but it's always worth it. And not only that, but flying is super expensive.
This is true. Well, what kind of advice would you have for someone, maybe they're not a musician, but they're just somebody that is kind of in your situation where they're burning the candle at both ends and they don't know exactly what to do because they're kind of on this treadmill of busyness that they can't get off of? What advice do you have for them as far as what to do next? What are next steps to getting off of that and getting healthy?
Yeah. I know it's so tricky because, you have to be able to make a living. You have to be able to provide for your family or, pay the bills. To me, it's like finding that balance. It's kind of like making that mental checklist of like, okay, what are the things in life that I really need that are serving me? And what are the things that aren't serving me? And I think first step is get rid of those things that aren't serving you. If it's stress, if it's a job that is just bringing you nothing but, stress, then that's probably not something you need to be doing, and a lot of these are hard decisions. And I had to come to, even people in your life that might be, bringing you more stress than it's worth, friends, even certain family members you might have to distance yourself from for a time just to be able to get your feet underneath you and kind of figure out what you need. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, it's just it's so hard to be helpful to others. And so to me, a big helper was taking just starting with baby steps. Like I started with 5 minutes a day of just some meditation, to just take a look inside, take some breathing, just super simple. Like anybody can make 5 minutes a day, right? And it was kind of I realized I'm not going to be able to conquer everything at once, but if I can just add one little thing each day, one thing, and get 1% better every day, then before you know it, that really compounds, and it has a positive impact. So, I sat down one night, I made a list. I was like, okay, 5 minutes a day. If I can meditate 5 minutes a day. And it's like, okay, well, if I can switch to organic food, if I can just switch to organic produce, let me try that for a bit. And then it was well, let me do 30 minutes of working out a day instead of 20 minutes. Let me go from just switching out my laundry detergent to cleaner laundry detergent, and then I'll worry about the hand soap next week. I realized if I tried to do it all at once, I was really going to overload myself with too much information. And so, I just kind of had a checklist of things to where it was check it off, just do one thing a day, just one little thing. And it could have been super, it could be super, super minuscule, but in the grand scheme, that really helped me to just stay out of, I've heard it said, my buddy Ryan Sternagel calls it a paralysis by analysis. If you think too many things through, you're not going to do anything. So even if you have to just start with something just to get you moving. And it's different for everybody. I think everybody will have a different process, but it's so important that everybody really stops and takes a look inside to see how they can become a better person, and not only for themselves, but again, for everybody around them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it looks like that's kind of a theme with the music that you play in general, the songs that you've chosen to sing. Very transparent, and apparently with how you've grown up in your history and essentially where the Lord has brought you this far along. Those things are things that work together to not only bring you here, but also make you more authentic. I think that's the word that I'm looking for. I think that in the music industry, you figure, these guys that have good voices and can play music, they get up there and they sing something that someone else wrote, and that may not be them at all. But from what I'm seeing of what you sing and do, this is from the heart, and it's kind of the path that you're being led on.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that, Susan. That means a lot. Yeah, to me, I've always been a fan of authentic artists, the truth. And when I'm early in my career, I put out a couple songs I didn't write, and I didn't feel connected to those songs. They were good songs. And then I realized okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to tell my story. I want to tell it the way I want to tell it. And so that kind of allowed me to change gears and be open about my songwriting. And I will say one of the great things about country music and about this genre is you can be very open about not only your family life and your values, but your spiritual life, your faith life. And to me, my faith has been like a guiding factor for me, throughout my whole life. And no matter how big the problem is, I always kind of look in the rear view and see what God has brought me through. And he just proves time and time again that there is no problem too big. There's always a solution. There's always an answer. So prayer, my spiritual life, that has seen me through every trial. And, I think about, when I was out of college, I left. There was this road you drive, you pass over the mountains in Northeast Georgia. And before you get into Chattanooga, there's an on-ramp to 75 North. And to me, I felt like if I got on that on-ramp, like my life would never be the same, and I was so homesick. I was praying. I was like, God, am I making the right decision? Like this is a risky career. There's a lot of unknowns ahead. And I just had this feeling in my chest. I was like, you can't turn around. Like you're just going to have to trust me and go. And ever since I got on that on-ramp, I felt like my life has never been the same. And that was a turning point. Like you hit those turning points in your life. And I look back at that and I look at how God has blessed me, and how many things he's delivered me from, how many times I probably should be dead, all the things that we've gone through, and the scary situations, and but he's seen me through it all. So having that peace and that underlying, just knowing that God's always overseeing everything, that also has been very, very helpful, along with being surrounded by awesome people like you and Pete, and just so many great resources out there that can have been through, journeys, whatever the health journey is, who have seen things that it's like, no matter what position you're in, no matter how bad you think it is, somebody out there has gone through something worse and has come out on the other side of it. Mm-hmm. And that encourages me,
And, you mentioned that you've had a health scare, and that's one of those things where it drives you to action, but then it also, anything like that gives you an opportunity to see what God can do. Yeah. So, if you never had adversity, you wouldn't be able to see what he can do. And then also being at a point in your life where, if I go on this on-ramp, I'm going a whole new direction. And for you, that led you to music and what you're doing now and the traveling. So where can people find your music? How do they listen? How do they get what you have?
Definitely, social media is a great place at John King Country. And actually, we just did an AzureWell collaborative post yesterday. So talking about some of my favorite AzureWell products. So if you go at John King Country on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and then also, all the streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple, just search John King on there. JohnKingCountry.com is a great place as well. We've got our tour schedule there, which we're working on our 2025 tour dates, which is going to be another fun one. We just actually bought a piece of land in Georgia, which was a dream come true for us. We've always wanted to eventually, get back close to home, which is only about 3.5 hours from Nashville. But, now that we've got kids and all the grandparents are back there, we finally found a piece of land that we can kind of put roots down in one day and slowly kind of make it into our forever piece of property. So we'll be working on some of that and sharing that as well, and kind of sharing how Azure is a part of that process as well. So there's a lot of fun things coming up next year.
Yeah, and being able to bring your work life and your family life, home life together into something where you can actually have that very peaceful, pleasant enjoyment of your career, because you're right. Music should be fun and healthful. It shouldn't be so stressful.
Exactly. Yes. And that's what I've found. Like it really should be fun. And, I think back to when I was a kid, when I was doing this, in my garage, with my little brother, and we were, we had this garage band, like we were just having fun, and I think, as we get old, just like with everything, we lose a lot of that passion. And I'm blessed, and I realize how rare it is to get to live out my dream. Like this is something I've dreamed about doing since I was a kid, like to actually be able to do that at a professional level. Like, it hit me the other day. It was like, that is, if you were to have the odds, it's gotta be 1 in a million. The people who really get to say, when I grow up, I want to be, a country music singer. And it really happens. Like, so I don't want to ever take that for granted. And I want to keep that youthful excitement about it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get down and write some music and kind of use that as a way to creatively reconnect with where I'm from, the land in Georgia, and to have a big garden, which I'm really excited about, which we don't have room for in Nashville. And I've always wanted a big garden.
Well, and that's where a lot of your health comes from. So, you have what actually goes in and what your body is made out of. Yeah. And then you also have the emotions and the stresses and the external environment to deal with. But that's partly what Azure Standard is focused on, is whole foods, and getting it from your own garden, super fresh, raw, done in the soil that you cultivated, out in the sunshine, the fresh air, all those things that we know are so health promoting. And when you get away from those things, that's when the disease tries to sneak in, and you have to counterbalance that a bit.
Yeah, you're totally right, and it's something that I really would love to teach my kids too. I just think, younger generation, it's such a blessing to watch them, get out there and learn things like this. And this day and age, that in the tech age that it is, I think it's as important as ever to get our kids outside and playing in the dirt, and and doing the things that luckily I got to do a lot of when I was a kid, and I think a lot of older generations did, but I think now it's more rare to find that. So I'm kind of tasked with that as a father, to like let that be a big part of my kids' raising.
Right. Yeah, that's really important. And I think that not only will they thank you for it, but you're actually being a really good role model for other parents that want the same thing for their kids, and make it so that your song, better man, better family, working on that together. Well, John, this has been great talking to you. I really enjoyed this. So I hope people will visit your website, listen to your music, and then come on over to AzureLivingWell.com for our supplements, and AzureStandard.com for food. And this has been good, John. Thank you.
Oh, Susan, thank you. Yes, and all your insight and wisdom, it just pours out of you, and I'm excited to keep learning more from you, and keep working with Azure and AzureWell. I mean, it's like I say, it's very rare to find companies that truly value people's health and think so deliberately about the ingredients that are in everything. So thank you guys for what you do. It's really amazing for everybody.
Well, good. All right. Thanks, John.